Hello everyone. Wow, so many people joining me already. My goodness, hello. So, hi deities. It is Monday the 15th of June, and thank you very much for tuning in to episode 5 with Goddess Laura Brody. And I also hope that you'll join me at 8 for episode 6 with Goddess Animatronic. Wow. We are in for a treat. We've got two incredible women with us today. I'm very excited. So, in case this is your first time tuning in, I'm Ada. I create with an avant-garde spiritual kink. My message is to harness the power of your inner warrior deity, recognizing the universe in yourself. Today, I'm going to be talking to my darling and lovely friend Laura Brody. She is a wardrobe artist with specialties in costume design, commercial styling, fashion design and personal shopping. But before we chat with Laura, I just want to quickly mention my thoughts of the week, which is something that I've been doing kind of inexpertly, but hopefully in a way that's been in some way helpful. So this week, as this Pride Month continues, we are very, very tragically seeing attacks on trans people and attacks on trans rights from both the US and UK governments. And if you are watching in the UK, please have a look in my stories, as I have shared one of Monroe Bergdorf's posts. And there is a swipe up link to Mermaids UK, which is a UK-based trans charity, and they have a page which is very useful about how to write to your MP about trans rights and trans issues. So I would really love if everyone could check that out, and please do that. And also there are plenty of Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ links now on the front page of my website as well. I'd also like us to remember that yesterday marked the 3rd anniversary of the End Memorial on YouTube, which I watched, which was incredibly moving, of the Grenfell fire in London, and that even 3 years after this tragedy, people are still not housed. Similar housing still has the same cladding that led to the deaths of 72 people. And this is another thing that if we're going to be writing to our MPs and our elected officials, we need to keep demanding justice for Grenfell. So I really hope that everyone will think about that also. This series will be coming to you every Monday from this account, and I will repost all of these lovely episodes onto YouTube afterwards. And hopefully my gorgeous Laura will now request to join us, or I can scroll through. Let's see. Laura, join us. Okay. So hopefully Laura will be joining us any moment now. Witches unite, it's time to boil a cauldron. Hello, Louie. Hello, Laura.
Hi, babes. How are you?
I'm good. You look so glamorous on your roof in California.
Oh, thank you. This is the first time I put on a whole face of makeup for quite a few months, except for on Shabbos. But no.
I'm very honored, and I'm very much loving seeing your gorgeous face, which, may I say, first of all, everyone, please check out Laura's website, which is pinned in comments. And also, when you watch this video afterwards on YouTube and on IGTV, you will be able to actually see the fabulous goddess Laura behind all of these comments. during the actual live, I'm like, I want everyone to see who I'm talking to, and you can see my face, and you guys are like completely hidden by comments and waving. But we love that, and we love all of you guys for joining us. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been so wonderful to like meet all your friends in England. They're so cool and inspirational.
Thanks. So are you. You are a costume and fashion designer, stylist, wardrobe artist, Californian Gemini goddess. You know, these are things that we can say. And I think that of everyone I've spoken to so far, you are the person I've spoken to the most during this whole period of time, and I am very grateful to our friendship, which endures across a distance of like almost 6,000 miles and an 8-hour time difference.
Yeah, I would have to say the same. It really has meant a lot to be able to talk to you all the time and kind of go through this together. It's been very difficult and weird, and you've made it better.
Oh, you have made it better for me, babe. So 100%. And I just want to kind of talk for a second about the way I met you as well, because like we met through our mutual friend, who is an incredible musician, producer, Laura Escude, and she put us in touch. And I had literally just arrived in LA for the very first time that I was there. And I think I'd been in LA for like less than 24 hours when I found myself with you at LA Fashion Week, like watching all these fashion shows.
And you're like a real, like a London real fashion person, and California is kind of like the like high school play of fashion.
It was amazing.
I mean, it was great. Like we're out here, we're trying. We're making our way in the world.
It was
but
great.
I remember you were a little taken aback.
I think the thing that amazed me the most was that in between the fashion shows, you had to get up and go stand in the parking lot whilst they moved the chairs around. God bless LA Fashion Week. That's what I want to say, because I'd very much like to participate one day. You know, it would be great.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I did love it. I loved it. It was a good community vibe, which was somehow like, considering the vastness of LA, it was kind of nice to sort of experience that.
It was, and I think that really summarizes like the feeling of Los Angeles. There's a good community vibe, and we're kind of just out in the parking lot, like doing, like in the sunshine, just doing stuff.
Exactly. Very that. I love that.
Like we're not like elegant or like particularly sophisticated. Like we're known for streetwear and sportswear and like sneakers.
I didn't realize that as well. That's another thing that totally surprised me, because I thought, and my vision of LA before I actually got there, I have to say, was I thought it would be like everyone would be like Rodeo Drive fabulous 24/7. And then I got there and I was like, oh, I love how casual. Everyone's so cash, but fabulous.
Yeah, everybody is like deeply casual in California. That's part of that's just part of who we are, and that's part of our lifestyle, and that's part of like what we produce and send out to the world is this like casual, easy, everyday fashion.
Goth casual.
Yeah, goth casual. We do that. But when I travel, I feel like deeply underdressed everywhere I go. Just I'm like, oh my God, I think maybe I need like real shoes or like a blazer or something.
Definitely not. I know that you're much more accustomed to being behind the camera, and that's part of why I wanted to do this Insta Live series, because as well as talking with performers, it's also super interesting to get the people in front of the camera whilst they actually have this period of time where they're not constantly working, to actually be in front of the camera and talk about that experience.
Yeah, it is nice to have the chance to talk about it. We don't get interviewed too much. I haven't given an interview in like 15 years or something since I was
Well,
doing
it's
fashion.
about time then.
It's about time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So, when did you first know that you wanted to be in the world of wardrobe and dressing and clothing and costume?
Probably in like junior high and high school. I was really, when I started being able to like pick out my own clothes and spend my own money on clothes, I got really excited about it, and I wanted to like be a goth kid and buy like creepers and
Yes, so many hearts for creepers. Everyone's loving that.
um and that I get very excited about
Yeah.
fashion. Yeah, about like junior high and high school, and as time progressed, and I would like buy fashion magazines. And what really happened was I had gone to college. I went to Reed College in Portland. I was studying French literature, which I did find out recently is what Andre Leon Talley was studied when he was in school. Um, love
Oh my
him. He's
gosh.
like a fave. He's like a big fave. Um,
That's crazy.
and the Reed was like a real tough school, and it was traditional for people to take a year off, like take a gap year.
Yeah.
And I decided during that year, when I was basically took the year off, to work part-time and rave. That was the fun.
Always a great
That
life
was an
decision.
early '90s rave moment, and had like some club kids that had escaped from New York and returned to Portland. That was really not what that was not really what I wanted to do. And I had been buying these French fashion magazines to help me get my language skills, like to advance my language skills. And
I
I
love
realized that
this.
I was more interested in the fashion than I was the French literature and culture.
Yeah, but I love that. I love that. It's like your subconscious mind was like, Laura, the French literature could be a French Vogue.
It's like, oh, yes. So, like, Paris Match, that was great. And um, I decided that I was going to go to fashion school. I just actually
Yeah.
recently revisited this with my mom's, and she said that I didn't ask her very much. I just told her, I said, I am going to go do this, and I submitted my applications, and I got in, and I want to go here. And
To
they were like, oh, okay.
to
They like,
FIDM.
yes, I went to FIDM in San Francisco, California.
And what is FIDM known for? Because like in San Francisco, is it like what do most of the people who study at FIDM go on to do?
Um, it's kind of split down the middle. I was in the fashion design program, and it is kind of a feeder school for Levi Strauss, which is like world
Right.
headquarters in San Francisco. I did want to. I was interested in working for them, but that was not going to be for me. And
Thank
the other,
goodness, really. I
yeah, thank
mean,
goodness. I mean, they do make great pants, I will say.
yeah, but I feel like a lot of
But
the
I think
jobs
I have
in
more to give than
you
just
have so much more
pants.
to give, honey.
I don't
Definitely.
even wear pants. That's
This is true. Like, definitely. I'm very
um,
blessed that you're
but the
not.
um, but they also have a like interior design program and a
Yeah.
visual merchandising. But it's primarily fashion design.
And then when you graduated from FIDM, and it was around circa like 1999 to 2002, you had your own brand and your own clothing line called LB426. Where does the name come from? What does it mean?
LB426 comes from the Aliens movie saga. This is like a sci-fi nerd inside joke, and it's really very telling of who knows exactly what this is and who does not.
Right.
Um, but the there. So have you seen Alien?
Okay, so I am very bad at watching anything scary. I'm very much in the Mary Poppins milieu of film as a person and a human.
I
So I have
I respect
watched.
that, and I'm going more in that direction. But I do love anything that's like a space alien or like outer space themed type
I
of movie.
I have totally tried. I've watched bits of Alien, and I think one of the most scary experiences, honestly, was I was at a Halloween party that had a very like elaborate outdoor bit where you had to like literally go through like a horror maze, and the last bit, which I, and this was like for me as someone who can barely watch a horror film, was quite intense, but the bit where like at the last room there were people dressed in the full alien costumes.
Like
You would have
like a
loved
Geiger
this.
Queen, I would love that. Would hate a horror maze or like an escape room. Look, I work in like film production. I got enough problems. Like I don't need to do that for fun. I have to solve problems and like escape from things, and there's
Yeah,
such a pressure and action. I want to like go home and do yoga and like
yeah, which we will
listen
definitely talk about, but
listen
getting
like
back to the brand.
listen to some easy listening music.
We're
Uh,
sidetracking. I'll get
wait,
us
I'm
back
sorry.
on course.
Right. Um,
So your
so
clothing brand, so
in
the
a
426.
the 426, well, actually, in the Alien movie saga, what happens is Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, is sent by the company to this planet that's LV is in Victory 426,
Ah,
they're terraforming this planet, and something's gone wrong. So they send Ripley and her crew to go figure out what's going on, and that's where she meets and fights the alien.
excellent. I'm now informed. And then
Yes,
and so you very cleverly changed that to LB being your initials,
yeah,
426. I
yes,
love
because I had sort of misheard it and I wasn't sure, and
But like I'll take
actually
it. It's
I was
mine.
like, I'll take it. I was like, I got to go register for my fictitious business license name tomorrow. I'm just gonna take this and go with it.
I
And
love
that
that.
was kind of like the way, kind of the way things were at the time. Everybody's email is like, or like AOL Instant Messenger
Oh yes, the
username
days.
would be like your name and then like 123 or whatever. Everybody would have like a little name and a little number.
Yeah, and also I feel like back in those days we all had those sort of like number pseudonym type things because of
Yeah,
like
exactly.
instant messenger and
Mm-hmm.
like MySpace and instant messenger as well, like
Mm-hmm.
back in the days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the amount of time like spent in instant messenger is kind of amazing, like looking back on it.
It is. Instant messenger has been like a wonderful way of communication. Like I don't know about you, I had pen pals when I was little, and this is like being able to have that kind of reach to talk to people all over,
Or like
except
yeah, yeah, I feel like
except
it was very
faster.
much the first time we all experienced that in such an instant way as well. So what was it like creating a brand at that time in San
It
Francisco?
was not particularly easy. I really was just out on my own. There were a few other independent, like apparel manufacturers that were run out of either very, very small live work lofts or out of their own homes, out of their apartments. There was a lot of like there was interest in us, and we did have apparel manufacturing local in San Francisco, but it was not like be, because the internet was sort of new, and actually online retail was very, very new. The means of selling to people and reaching out to people was quite difficult.
So
I was
how did you sell, like how did you go about it? Like what were the
I
routes?
I had a store on Upper Haight Street, like Haight Ashbury, that I had a great relationship with, and they would pretty much just buy whatever I wanted to sell to them. And then I also had a relationship with this very, very early online fashion retailer called Fabric 8. And I was able to like like give them a certain amount of my product, like small run production for them to sell for me, and they did marketing and online sales, and they did all the fulfillment. And I actually modeled for all of the clothes, so you could see this like very, I guess it's kind of like cute and like hokey and like looking like antiquated what like an e-commerce shoot looked like in,
But you
20
say
in like,
antiquated, but if you
but
think about it now, the things that are inspiring everyone in fashion imagery terms, there's a lot of that era aesthetic coming back into fashion now.
oh, absolutely, the like
Yeah.
Y2K era is very much my favorite. I still feel that there's a lot of stuff that's relevant that was going on at that time. That the I think the way that 9/11 really kind of like halted a lot of the progress in fashion, of like forward looking in fashion, um is because like picking back up slowly, but there is a lot of influence from that time still.
Definitely. That's a really interesting point that I hadn't even thought about. And what was San Francisco like at that time?
That it was a weird day. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh,
Everybody
I
out
just
on the
meant more San Francisco at that time. But
oh
yes, no, let's not talk about that day.
God, yeah,
Yeah.
let's not. San Francisco was like very vibrant at the time. A lot of people were independent artists. It was not as expensive as it was. That was kind of like the end of this like artistic era where people were able to be full-time artists or
Oh, we've frozen. Hopefully we're unfrozen. Oh, sorry,
so,
my love. We
no,
froze
sorry.
for
I
a
thought I put
second.
no, it's I put my phone on do not disturb, but it didn't work.
Oh, it's okay.
We're
So you
still
were saying that in San Francisco at that time,
It was very vibrant.
yeah,
Like there was a lot of excitement. People were working as artists, as musicians. The music scene, especially the drum and bass scene, which I love and was participated in and was very, very influenced by, was like super vibrant. People were full time DJs, producers,
so did a lot of
and like the tech industry also was very, very vibrant. There was so much room for growth, so much opportunity. There was like the tech, this was like the height of the tech boom. There was
right.
a lot of people, a lot of creative, interesting people were there. They had money to spend. They were going out. They wanted to hear music. They wanted fashion. It was cool. It was cool. Like it really was a amazing, great time.
It sounds amazing. So a lot of the people who were at the very sort of beginnings of the whole like disruptive industries in Silicon Valley were also the people who were like coming to the drum and bass clubs.
Probably so. Probably so.
Yeah.
I would definitely be interested to hear where somebody like Jack from Twitter, like what he was doing in 1999.
Definitely. And what were your pieces inspired by at that time, apart
I
from
was
alien movies and
oh
H.R. Geiger?
yeah. I was really inspired by like men's streetwear and sportswear, and like how cool these guys looked. It's a very like a functional aesthetic. They call it tech wear now, but I
Yeah.
was very inspired by like kind of like North Face and
Mhm.
have really had like high performance, and I wanted to make like use those fabrics in a way that could be really feminine and have a very feminine silhouette.
Yeah.
and to provide a lot of functionality for day to day.
That's really interesting because I think that's a really similar perspective that we share, where we've sort of identified a form of clothing that has a very sort of, there is a functional aspect, there is like a performance aspect to it, but it's had a very sort of traditionally very like, or until the point where each of us sort of worked with it, you know, there's a lot of masculinity in it, or a lot of sort of, you know, there's a lot of cool stuff for guys in that category, but like we've both sort of uh, like want to create stuff that has, it uses all of the functionality, the tech, but like create something that's with a more femme perspective within that field.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just like, here's a thought coming out of my head, not leading to another question.
Quite all right.
So, and what press were your, because your feet, like your pieces were featured in press as well at the time.
Yeah, I was in Women's Wear Daily. I was actually in Women's Wear Daily as like a feature on me personally and my brand, and in an editorial. I was in a book.
Oh wow!
Actually. Yeah, I was in a book about street art called Scrawl too, and it's very cool. It is mostly about aerosol artists, but I did a couple of collaborations with a couple artists that they wanted to put into the book. So
that's awesome.
And that was interesting, and I had to like give an artist statement.
Oh right, yeah.
It's like I didn't realize at the time that a lot of the other artists would have something very pretentious to say.
Right.
That was like very like far reaching and pretentious, and I just kind of told them like a story about making a garment.
That's really, I totally understand that. And I sort of feel like a lot of being creative is just about really enjoying doing and creating. And then this whole idea that you also have to have something pretentious to say alongside it can sometimes be really like, oh, and you want this as well? Isn't the visual enough? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Can we talk about fashion and film and that like visuals and this and that? Like if you want to talk to me about very complicated social problems, I can certainly talk about it, but I'd rather talk about fashion.
Exactly. So speaking of which, so following on from doing your own brand and being in San Francisco at that really exciting moment, when you moved to LA, which you've done twice, but what was when the second time you moved to LA, how had the industry changed? And also once you moved to LA, and now that you're in LA, you work mainly in like film and television and commercial and things that we've all seen on Netflix and HBO, such as Westworld. And so when you started working on film sets, what was the biggest difference between, the fashion world and the film world?
Everything happens very fast in the film world. The creative process is really shortened in the film world. From the time that you get a script, you have a concept, you maybe just have like a couple of days to do the design work, and maybe it'll evolve through fittings and conversations over a couple more days, and then it's done. Like you don't prepare for a season, or you don't spend like hours or weeks working on it. You do it very, very fast.
And how did you adapt to that way of working? Because it's so different. Because the costume only has to work, for seconds on screen, but every detail has to still look right. Like, how do you achieve that?
You don't sleep much.
But
I'm
do
not
you
sure
have
that's the
more
answer
hands
that you're.
on deck? Like
You
how?
have a lot. You will have like a lot of people, and like prioritize and pace yourself. Is you kind of just get one thing in front of the screen at a time,
Right.
and you're focused in that type of way. It's sort of different than if you're putting on a fashion show or a play where everything has to be done at once, and in that in film you have a limited amount of stuff that you do in each day, and you just go through it one day at a time.
I see. So, like for in fashion, where you might spend like 3 months working on the collection and then present the whole collection in one go, the film process is more like each day of those 3 months is like a new look, kind of, and you focus
Yes.
on that day, and then it's
Yes.
the next day.
Yes,
Yeah,
essentially.
that is
And
so. I mean,
and
I've
it
never worked
it
on that.
requires like a kind of different like logistical approach to
Yeah.
how you're getting everything done, and what things that you maybe need 2 weeks in advance to start working on. You'll know like how much lead time you need for different things.
And what's the biggest difference as well between, say, working with models in a fashion setting and then working with actors and on a film set?
Well, you collaborate with actors about how you're creating the character that they are physically portraying, whereas models are pretty much not involved in the creative process, and they don't speak much unless you're like a decent
Models
person
don't
and you want
speak
to like
much.
have like a chat with them. But models are not really there because they have a lot to give in as far as like a collaboration, whereas an actor, you really want to talk to them and see how they feel in the clothes, see
Right.
how they feel about how they look, get a sense of like what they were thinking about the character.
Yeah.
And then of course you have like a director, and you may have a producer. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen as far as like opinions and
How do you find
approvals.
that stressful? Because something I love about running my own brand is there aren't really other cooks in the kitchen. And the thing that I find quite like, especially as someone, I'm not like great at multitasking.
You're doing
Pretty
great, sweetie.
much a unitasker. The thing is, then if the actor says one thing, but the director says another thing, and then someone else says something else, like how does it all come together on a film set when you've got so many different voices going on?
Well, that is as problematic as you made it out to be. That is a real challenge, and eventually you just kind of compromise one way or the other, or there's politics or negotiation. And
Yeah. And are there any specific examples without naming names that you could sort of use, or is it just like
I fortunately have not had a ton of problems with that, but other people might be able to give you a better
right? Okay, so for
like a
you,
better
it's fairly
story.
smooth on most of
Yeah,
the.
for me it's fairly smooth, and sometimes I'm easygoing, and I will have a lot of options to make sure that there's something that's going to fit the parameters of what we're looking for.
And what's when you've worked on something like Perry Mason, and that involves sort of period costumes, and there's other films that you've worked on where it's more like period costume. What's the process like of recreating the past when you're working in costume?
It's funny that you asked that, because I really don't like doing period. Like I don't I to do it. Like I like it when they pay me to do it, but I'm so much more interested in like the present and the future. But
Yeah.
there's always research involved. and there's always like a kind of a wild goose chase involved of trying to track the clothes down and trying to figure out if the clothes that are available to you are going to fit the look, or if you need to custom make some things to for whatever the scene calls for. So definitely in Perry Mason, the designer had quite a few things custom made, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but there certainly is a lot of stuff that was custom made. But using old clothes is really difficult. And just because of the condition, like the main issue that we had, and I don't think this is going to be a significant spoiler, was just maintaining this huge stock of real clothes, and even reproductions from that era, that those clothes are falling apart in your hands, or falling apart on people's bodies. And
oh my god!
The shelf life of garments. Yeah, the shelf life, the life of a garment is only so long. And I know sustainability is really important for us and for people, and it's interesting to see how long these natural fibers can really last under just regular wear, and when they do just fall apart and just decompose on their own.
Which is kind of interesting because coming back to your love of technical and performance materials, it's very interesting in terms of sustainability, this idea that hopefully what we'll get to is recyclable closed loop fabrics.
That would be incredible. Be incredible.
And that would actually be incredible in the world of film and costume, because then you'd have costumes that you would be able to recycle, literally.
That would be great. I mean, the costume department is a giant consumer of clothes and a giant consumer of fast fashion, of because that's what our budgets will allow, but we just have warehouses and warehouses that are
in LA,
the size of football fields. Yes, in LA. Wow. All just all over. There's some in New York. There's some in New Mexico, in Georgia. But just this huge amount of clothes that we keep around, and we never really know exactly what to do with them when you're done. And then there's just warehouses where things are to forever.
In LA, in the film industry.
Yeah.
And sometimes your job involves having to go to these huge warehouses full of clothing and sort of rapidly find the right thing as well.
Yes, going to the costume houses and pulling is a huge part of what I do.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to thrifting. It's like going to the most phenomenal, well-organized, outstanding thrift store you've ever been to. And I don't know if you get this, but I get I feel the call of the thrift store, and I get an intuition that there's going to be something for me in a certain place. And then I'll go and there will be a thing. And I kind of follow my intuition to wander in circles around the thrift store. And I use that same, whatever that same thing is in the costume house, to get a sense of where things are and how to find them, how to look at this. A rack, a row at Warner Brothers costume house will be it's the length of a city block.
Wow.
So it is. It's the size of a football field. The racks are stacked 3 high. You get the ladders. When I started in 2004, there was a couple of kind of rickety ones, but now they're all very much a OSHA approved, a safe metal ladder. And you climb up this ladder.
To answer the question of how the industry has changed, we've gone from having rickety ladders to much better ladders. That's amazing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
So
that it's been like
yeah,
a transition because they would
yeah,
tell us these stories before of how like glamorous it was for a costume designer in the studio
yeah,
era, and they would a costume designer would be assigned to Teamster, and
yeah,
then the Teamster would drive her to Beverly Hills to shop and like take her bags and drive her back across the hill to the office. And then we sort of had a bit of a low point, a low rickety ladder point, and now,
it's
um, and
improving.
then, and now it's improving, and then we've had this huge like full stop for COVID,
Yeah,
and we're looking at coming back with some very, very drastically improved safety measures. So,
yeah. And
um,
just before all of COVID and before COVID happened, you were working on the third series of Westworld.
yeah, yes, yes,
Yay! What
yes,
was
I
it
did work
like?
on that. It was like the experience of a lifetime. It was the hardest that I've ever worked on anything. I It was amazing just to see, just to be on the sets and see what everything looked like and see the future cars and all the like props and like future sets and watch the actors, and it really was incredible. It was a like very satisfying to be on these sets and see this like like a partially utopian future, and watch the plot unfold. And it was very surreal. We shot some of it on my actual block. Now that the whole season has come out, like we
Yeah,
shot parts of the riot in the finale like on my actual block.
where there are now actually protests and
There were,
riots.
there were that
Yeah,
the Friday night of the protests kind of got out of hand in Los Angeles. There was a certain point where we had shot where there was protesting and rioting and police violence on the exact same spot where we had shot the same thing for
wow.
Westworld, and I had like
So surreal.
personally been there and took some screenshots and sent it. I still had like a group text from my little clique in the costume department that I sent over, and everyone was like, I literally can't believe that this is really happening.
Yeah. It's been an
It's
incredibly
it's been a
like intense time.
it's been surreal. It's been
Yeah.
surreal and intense for sure.
And now that lockdown is beginning to, I mean, it starts, they certainly want lockdown to ease, but like it's very weird because it's like, well, governments want it to ease and want us to all get out there and pick up the economy, but then we're all still not really safe. So how do you, but like, what do you think it's going to be like for people trying to create safe environments to film on? Do you think it's possible for people to start
I think
filming again?
it's I think we're getting there. I feel pretty good that the unions I belong to have hired a couple of epidemiologists to explain what our workflow is like and to kind of spot check how we need to do certain things. What I am concerned about is that we're not getting accurate information about how the disease is transmitted, and if we don't
Yeah,
know exactly how it's transmitted, we can't know how to protect ourselves. And there's just such a like there's so much confusion about it, and this information is here, that information is there, that the people aren't getting it. And why was there a huge outbreak that came out of a shopping mall like
yeah,
in China, where they said it's from non contact transmission, just basically people all were touching something and then they all got sick, or maybe it was from the air.
Yeah,
So we really don't know until we can get a better idea of how it spreads. We're just gonna kind of be guinea pigs, and I know I'm not really comfortable with that. I know our unions are not comfortable with it. So
yeah,
I think we are on track to have a slow reopening for
yeah.
major film, television
How do you think
productions.
it's
It
going
could
to,
be a couple more months
and
before we're really doing it.
do you think it will have like a thematic aesthetic, like are we gonna see coronavirus the movie next year?
Uh, I mean, we've had 4 Sharknadoes. I don't see why not.
We're not escaping this, are we? We're totally going to be watching the movie of all of our lives at some point next year. That's my
Probably so. I mean, I
yeah,
definitely think there's going to be a change in the tone and the theme, in the themes of how things are approached and what we see and what people want to watch or what feels appropriate. I mean, I
yeah.
think the combination of coronavirus and the Black Lives Matter like race situation is really going to affect the type of programming that we see in the next year.
I mean, I really hope that we'll see a lot more programming which is really, encourages more dissent in and change, and hopefully we'll see more stuff that comes back to the idea of community and using our minds and our voting power.
I certainly hope so, and I know
Yeah,
people are very hungry for new content. So,
yeah,
and we'll say it will. There's going to be a gap in new content that if we haven't been working for, if we're not making anything major for 6 months, there's going to be 6 months of content missing. So
I mean, and
maybe a good
already
time
so many
to
people
work on
have
the
like
work
finished
like
Netflix.
yeah, I did get a call from a good friend who was like, when are you going back to work? I watched everything on Netflix. I'm like, I'm glad you
Thank
think
you.
that I'm the one.
Yeah, you're the one who needs to be responsible for fixing that in their lives. Excellent. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and you've also done some mask making during lockdown as well.
I did. I volunteered with my 2 unions as well as a couple of other unions in Hollywood to make cloth masks and give them out to essential personnel, and also to give. I think we gave some to hospitals, nursing homes, like homeless rescue missions. I think we made 40,000 masks
Wow,
by hand. Um,
amazing.
so I spent quite a few hours making masks,
It's
and
impressive. Like
it like
you got
feels
through a
good to.
lot of pinning.
I got through a lot of pinning. It was like good to just have a project to help me, like kind of give me something to do.
Yeah.
I always like to volunteer and give back to the community, and the charity that I usually work for, which is called Dress for Success, is
Hmm.
not really operating in person right now, and it's very much something that happens in person. So
Right. I see. So, and dress for success. If you could just like, because we've only really got a couple of minutes before we
oh,
have
I
to
know
go.
we've just been gabbing on. I hope this has been
It's been
entertaining.
so fabulous and like insightful and gorgeous. I've loved this. So if you can briefly tell us about Dress for Success and what does it do?
Very briefly, well, I work as a volunteer stylist for Dress for Success, and I also help to organize clothing stock.
Yeah.
They offer it's professional wardrobe services for women who are looking to rejoin the workforce. So it's a 100% women's only organization,
Yeah.
and it'll be women who maybe are coming out of jail, or referred by the Employment Development Department
Yeah.
or the Salvation Army, and they are looking to advance themselves professionally. So they are either going to job interviews or they are going to their first week of work in a professional environment. And we provide a lot of like interview, like assistance with interviews, and like additional professional development, as well as providing clothes. And so the main thing that we do is we have volunteer stylists like myself get appointments with women, and then I'll find out if they're getting dressed for a job interview or for a week of work, and then I'll fit them with one outfit or 5 outfits, like head to toe, shoes, purses, makeup, undergarments, whatever, and have a chat with them about like what their interview is, and see if there's other services that we can provide for them.
That's amazing. I very much hope that we'll get to the point where we can you're able to return to doing to that, and everyone's able to return to that service.
Hopefully yeah, me too. It's super, it's like super uplifting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like we could have a whole other hour-long conversation about it.
Yeah.
But thank you everyone so much for tuning in, and for being with myself and Goddess Laura. And Laura, I love you so much.
Thank you I love you too, babes. It was so nice to talk to you. And maybe we'll talk more about clothes next time.
Yes, we should do part 2, I think, at some point.
Yeah, let's do it.
You're like, really? Again?
No.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, thank you so much. Lots of love to everyone, and I will see you guys again at 8 o'clock.
All right. Thank you guys. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.